score. This is something I think very few people actually know what their credit score is, which has always been kind of interesting to me. They may know, I have good credit, I don't have good credit, but they don't actually know what the number is. And what is so important about that magic number? There's a couple scores that are commonly used. The most popular one, the one that the banks use, is the FICO score. And that is, when you go to apply for a mortgage, that's the score that they're looking at, is your FICO. There is one, this is the one I've been kind of going off of, which is your Vantage score. They're usually pretty close. Some of them have different parts of the score weighted differently. And the reason that I just go off with the Vantage score, because that's what my credit cards are showing me when I go to, quote, check my credit score. That's what Credit Karma uses, and that's what Capital One shows me my credit score, and it's usually the Vantage score. And I think my American Express card actually shows me my FICO. So you don't exactly have to know down to the point what your score is, but you should know what range you're in. So one of the things that really a lot of people really kind of have problems with is that a lot of times what's actually on your credit report is not correct. I have an address on my credit report that I've never lived at. I have my name is incorrect. When I got divorced, I took my maiden name back, which is Harris, and it's still showing up as something else. So you want to make sure your name, your address, your date of birth are all correct, and the credit lines that you have. I have friends that have been dunned for, by the way, if you don't know, dunning is the process of collecting a debt. So if you hear someone saying, well, I got dunned on this, it means that they're receiving collection letters and phone calls about a debt that somebody thinks they owe. Okay, so the number one thing I think that's on a credit report is just mistakes. If you need to pull your credit frequently, they say once a year minimum. You can get your reports from Credit Karma, which is free. Remember that they're not showing a FICO score, they're showing a Vantage score. They're not quite the same thing, so different things are weighted differently. So you would need to be aware of that. But you need to check your credit score frequently, especially if you're getting ready to make a major purchase. And make sure there's no mistakes on it. That would be the very first thing I would do to make sure that your credit score is high. The next thing would be to make sure that you're paying your bills on time. This seems like a no-brainer, and yet I don't think it is. Your payment history is the number one thing that impacts your credit. And things that impact your credit can impact it for up to 7 years. So it's important to make sure that your credit score is, that you're paying your bills on time. When I was young, I'm going to date myself a little bit. I'm really only 29. I self-identify as 29. But when I was younger, it was a little bit harder to pay your bills on time because the money wasn't always in the bank, and then I had to write a check, and then I had to put it in the mail, and boy, that sure seems archaic now. In today's technology, there's no reason not to pay your bills on time. You're getting email reminders about them, you're getting reminders in the mail, you can pay on time, on the due date. So there should be, I've had times when I've just forgotten, but that's only by a day. You want to make sure that you're paying your bills on time, by the due date, or before. I'm going to talk a little bit towards the end about paying your bills off more frequently. Your next thing that you want to, and this is kind of tied into the paying your bills more frequently, you want your credit utilization actually to be low. If your creditors think that you are living off of your credit cards because you've got them all maxed out, that does affect your credit score. And it's huge. This is probably the biggest part. So if there's any way you can pay off your bills faster, they really say 10 to 30% is really all you should be utilizing. I recently went to a little seminar where they talked about kind of using the credit cards as your own bank. So instead of depositing your paycheck into a checking account, for example, you would take that and you would immediately put that onto your credit cards and then pay all of your bills off of your credit card. Now, if you have the self-discipline to do this, okay, not everybody does. There's some people that I would tell to stay away from this as far as they possibly can. But if you have the discipline to do this, if you just take your paycheck, my landlord actually does not take credit cards, so I can't use that to pay my rent. But then you put everything you can on your credit cards, especially if they're rewards cards. The reason for that is that then anything you are, quote, running up, you're just paying it off with your next check anyway, so your credit utilization stays low. And you're kind of treating your credit card as a debit card. You start to treat it like a checking account. There's a few things that happen when you do that. Number one is if it is a rewards card, I have a couple of cards that offer 2 to 5% cash back. And when you use that, you're actually earning 2 to 5% on your purchases. Now, I don't know about you, but I have yet to see a savings account in this economy that earns more than a few pennies in interest. So getting 2 to 5% cash back is huge. Also, it helps keep your credit utilization, that's a hard word to say, utilization low, so that you can then improve your credit score, which usually leads you to larger lines of credit. Then, once you've paid off your credit cards this way, and you keep them paid off, then you can start putting money aside for other things. I am really big on, you want your credit cards paid off first. That's a big, big thing. So there you go, my 4 tips for improving your credit score. Understand it's not going to happen overnight. Understand that black marks on your credit report are probably going to be there for 7 years. But if you stay on top of your credit reports and you are making sure that all of the information is correct, you do have the right to dispute any reports that are incorrect. If you don't think you owe that debt, go ahead and write to them. So that's kind of it for tonight. I'm going to keep it kind of short and sweet. There's not a lot to say about credit reports except to stay on top of them. And there are some fun, creative things you can do to make sure that you're using credit, because you have to use credit, but also to make sure that you are using it appropriately and leveraging that money for your best interest, so to say. That's it for tonight, and I will be delighted to talk to you again soon. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow. It'll probably be next week. Talk to you soon. Bye.